Hey guys, Coach Chris here, back with another video. This time we're taking a look at Owen's round 1 game from the Gateway Chess League. I was able to analyze a couple of the games right after in person. The ones that I wasn't able to, I will try to make videos on. Probably won't get to all of them, but at least going to try to analyze a few. So Owen opened with e4, best by test according to Bobby Fischer. Maximum development possibilities for the queen and bishop, like to see it, controlling the center. His opponent plays c6, the Caro-Kann, d4, d5. Owen takes the center, opponent strikes back at it. Owen plays the advanced variation, which is a very good line, and opponent played c5, which is kind of a tricky move. It looks a bit counterintuitive to play c6 and then c5, but we actually see the point in the game. Owen played c3, which the engine is fine with. I think the much simpler, much easier line to play for white is to just take this pawn. If we do that, then most likely what you'll see is e6 from black to regain the pawn. If black plays knight c6 first to pressure e5, then there are several good moves. You can just continue with knight to f3, you can play f4. Both of those moves are very good. You can find chessable courses advocating for both of those approaches. But let's just look at the idea if black plays e6 to immediately recapture the pawn. First, we should note that black commits to, at least for a little while, having a bad light-squared bishop. And then white can just continue to develop normally. Knight f3, bishop takes c5, bishop d3. And with this pawn wedge on e5 preventing black's knight from coming to f6, black needs to watch out for all kinds of attacks. The classic Greek gift, sacrifice after black is castled with bishop takes h7 check, knight g5 check, queen coming into h5 is definitely in the air. Black always has to be careful about that. And when we play this d takes c5 move, after we develop normally, then we will, unless black gives us an opportunity for a cool tactic, we'll just castle. Rook can come to the e file, and the way we take advantage of this bishop and further reinforce e5 is to play a3, b4, hitting the bishop, opening up this diagonal for our dark squared bishop. Knight comes to d2, supporting a future c4 break, and white has a lead in development, nice attacking chances, harmonious development that makes sense, whereas the position we get in the game looks a lot like an advanced French with one just enormous difference, and that is e6 is not yet on the board from black, which would make this a advanced French. Instead, black can make use of the fact that e6 is not on the board by playing bishop g4. And in these French-like structures, the whole opening becomes about the d4 square. And so here, black intends to play queen b6 when the c-pawn, the knight, and the queen will all be pressuring the d4 point, and by playing bishop g4 before the door is closed with e6, black can attack and eliminate our key piece defending d4. So the engine has nothing to say about c3, however, strategically, it's very, very difficult to play for a human. Engine thinks bishop g4 is an inaccuracy. Technically that's true. If you're playing black here, you're supposed to take first, so takes, then bishop g4. In any event, the idea remains the same, which is to pressure d4. I should also note that the reason black takes first is to fix this pawn on d4, and then after, say, bishop e3, e6, bishop d3, the engine wants to give a check here with black, but you can also bring the knight to f5, queen b6, and have the queen, both knights, attacking his d4 point. The bishop is ready to chop the knight on f3 at any time, and in that scenario, either the d4 pawn or the b2 pawn will fall. So, again, just taking this pawn immediately is by far the easiest way to play, in my opinion. So we get to this position, bishop g4, bishop e2. Again, engine wants to get rid of that potential weakness on d4, but we played bishop e2, and now black didn't have to take yet, but it does make a lot of sense to go ahead and take. Bishop takes, and now e6. So now black has pawns on light squares, and no longer this potentially weak, restricted light squared bishop because it's been exchanged off. And although white does temporarily have the two bishops, which are often some small advantage, here this light squared bishop is just, looking at pawns, it's not a great piece. So strategically, black is doing very, very well in this position with easy plan, queen b6, you can bring the knight around to f5, pressure this pawn. I would prefer black here. So we played bishop e3, queen b6, again pressuring d4 and b2. Here Owen took, which again is just very understandable to get rid of that pawn. Engine doesn't like it. Engine prefers queen to d2 instead, but then ask this knight how it feels about queen to d2. So d takes d5, very reasonable, understandable move. After these trades, we're left with this now weak pawn on e5. This knight's pressuring it. The queen could pressure it. This knight could pressure it. This pawn on e5 is going to fall. And so it's not just that black has a slight lead in development, better minor pieces. It's that this pawn, a center pawn at that, is eventually going to fall, and black is just doing very well. So we castled, not seeing that, not seeing that the pawn on e5 was hanging. But again, even if white plays queen e2 to try to defend it, black can just keep bringing attackers. Eventually this pawn will fall, and white's going to have to keep fighting, which Owen definitely does. But if black plays well, then black should win this position. And that's what happened. Owen kept fighting, did a good job of activating the pieces. I actually like this trade from our perspective, getting rid of that kind of useless light squared bishop. And, Owen tries to make some things happen, but, the way it often goes in chess is when you lose one pawn, you're more likely to lose the next one. And that's what ends up happening. Black takes another pawn, and then, we lose another one. And black, didn't make any blunders. No big mistakes, just 3 inaccuracies. When your opponent plays with 96% accuracy, it's going to be a very tough player to beat. In short, black just played a really, really good game here. Owen did as well, 91% accuracy, just that strategic error early. But yeah, good fight from Owen. I think the takeaway in this game is to just take here on move 4. So once you see your opponent waste time with c5 again, then that's sort of the green light to take, develop normally, castle, and then at some point you look to play a3, b4, hitting the bishop, bishop b2, taking that diagonal, knight comes to d2, c4 to blow it all open, and white's doing great. Alright guys, I'll end that here. Thanks for watching, keep grinding those tactics, and I'll see you in the next one.